Atmosphere today, being right after the Feast of Tabernacles, we have entered into an open heaven space. See, people were celebrating, they were fasting and feasting for the whole month of September. And of course, on Sunday was the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles at sundown. And so this week is a time of open heaven where God really reveals things that we had been praying and seeking Him for, fasting and just giving Him offerings, bringing Him offerings just because He asked. In Deuteronomy 16 verses 16 and 17 where He says, "Come to me 3 times a year." That would be the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Ingathering, or the Feast of Weeks, which is Pentecost, or the Feast of Passover, unleavened bread. Come during this time and bring me an offering. And so we came in obedience to what the Word of God said. And then He releases this open heaven and He positions us for a promotion. And so, you know, it's a blessing because God has 2 New Years every year. And of course, at Rosh Hashanah, that's head of the year. And then again, we'll have another New Year, which will take place at the time of Passover in 2019. But it's awesome because we get an opportunity to celebrate Him so many different times. He says, "Come to my party." You're going to come to my party, and it's during that season. And when you honor me, I'm not going to bless you because you honored me, but you're honoring me because I deserve to be honored, right? And as Pastor Dina was sharing with us, you know, we respond to what God has already done, right? And we're obedient to hear His voice and to do what He says. And in His Word, He has spoken about the importance of these seasons, these feasts. And so we are obedient to come to Him during that time, and we always see blessings pour out on us as a result. And we always see promotion and enlargement of territory. Exodus chapter 34 verse 24 says, when you come 3 times a year, those same 3 times, God will enlarge your territory. He says that flat out. People will say, I want more of this. Okay, well then come and obey God. Come and obey God and then watch an enlargement of your territory. And so right now today, we are sitting in an enlargement of territory. There is an open heaven and there is an enlargement of territory that took place for you. Well, what are some of the things that God is bringing down from heaven right now? We talk about open heaven. He's bringing down new grain, new wine, and new oil because that's what He promised us. And new grain means new revelation. And so tonight I am really excited because the Lord has been revealing to me things about the treasuries. He has treasuries in heaven. God has these treasuries in heaven, and tonight I'm going to teach you about how to access the treasuries of heaven. Who wants to hear how to do that? Tonight's message is called The Miraculous Life, and you might think to yourself, how in the world could I access the treasuries of heaven? Everybody's always asking the Lord, Lord, I need more finances for this, or I need more of this. I don't have enough resources. Well, what if the Word says you have all the resources? You just don't know who you are, and so therefore you haven't been able to access them. See, if you want to operate in the miraculous life, you have to understand that you are a son or a daughter of the King who owns the treasuries in heaven. See, most of the time we come to the King begging Him to give us something instead of saying, hey, Pops, I know it's in the treasury. Can I have some of that? We don't come to Him saying, I know I'm a son and daughter and it's in the treasury. I've seen it. I know that it's there and I want my inheritance. I want my portion. See, most people would dare to do that. They would think to themselves, well, maybe that's being disrespectful of God, or how could we? No, let me tell you what honors God. What honors God is when you call you who you are. That's what honors God. It does not honor God when we come to his throne and we don't assume the position of who we are. That is not God honoring. Let me tell you why it's not God honoring. Because he sent his son to make a way for you to have that position. If you choose not to take it, you slap him in the face and say he didn't do enough for you. People don't think like that. They don't. See, he says every spiritual blessing is yours in the heavenly places. And then some people say, oh, well, you can access that when you die. Get out. You're going to live forever. Today, eternity starts. What's happening here is going to go on beyond. God's time and space is not ours. Your life doesn't start when you die. It's here and now. You're already in heaven. You're just placed in the natural realm. See, you got to change your thinking. And so people say all the time, oh, I want to see miracles. I want to walk in the miraculous life. Lord, give me the greater gifts. I want to lay hands on people and have this sick be healed. I want to be able to see great miracles happen right in front of me that is going to draw the non-believer. Well, then you better change the way you think about you if you want to walk in the greater giftings. See, everybody asks God for more. But if you don't know how to manage more, you don't deserve to have more. And the management of more starts with how you think about yourself. 3 John verse 2 says, may you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. Your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. In other words, John is telling us, the Apostle John is saying, listen, it is no good for you to be blessed beyond measure if you don't even know who you are. He's saying, may you prosper and be in good health as your soul prospers. So if you're not prospering, then it's because your viewpoint is of a little soul. Everything is little. Or it's all about fear or anxiety or depression, or this is what I feel in this second. Oh my gosh, I felt that. No. Break free from that bondage and get in a mental state where you know who you are and who God says you are. Then you are a person who can receive the treasuries of heaven and be able to operate in that treasury. My son and I were walking around yesterday, and he and I were talking about things, and he said to me, he says, you know, money can't make someone happy. Now, this is my young son, right? And he's saying, you know what, money can't make people happy. He's like, they have to be happy first, and then money will make them happy. And I was like, whoa, yeah, you read the word. That's 3 John verse 2. You see, the problem is we keep asking God for more like it's going to make us happy. It will not make you happy. It will end up breaking you. You see it all the time. Just turn on the news. How many people with all kinds of stuff are being broken or finding themselves in rehab facilities when they're excessively wealthy because they can't manage their soul. Your soul was given to you at birth. Your spirit, you have a soul, and you walk in an earth suit, a body. This earth suit only lasts 80 to 100 years, somewhere in there. And then the earth suit can't take the environment anymore. It's worn out. And then you get to go and be with Jesus and get a new suit. That's your eternal body. However, during this time that we're here, we have to realize that God is training us for reigning there. And so when we talk about having access to the treasuries of heaven, why would he not want you to know that now? Because if you become a good manager now, you will definitely be a good manager when you're there. See, there's a lot of kingdom management being going on. You're not going to get yourself in a rocking chair when you get up there and go back and forth at the crystal sea going, isn't this look nice? And that's going to be your everyday existence. You're going to be very, very busy up there doing kingdom work. You'll be in the presence of the Lord and in his glory, which will make it amazing. But you're still going to be working. So when we say we enter our eternal rest, it's we enter into the rest of our soul. You will no longer battle the demonic forces that have strongholds on your life, where you have fear, anxiety, depression, guilt, shame. You will no longer battle that, praise the Lord. But you will still work for the King. So tonight I want to teach you about the miraculous life and why this is so important to know this right now during open heaven time. Because God has said, I've enlarged your territory. And because your territory is enlarged, I need you to receive a revelation, some new grain from heaven about your kingdom citizenship that will enable you to manage the enlargement that I've given you. And so let's talk tonight about how to walk in the miraculous, how to access the treasuries of heaven, because he established his covenant with us. And this is what I find to be so amazing about what Pastor Dina shared with us, is she talked about Genesis chapter 14. Well, before 14 comes 12. 12 is when God entered a covenant with Abraham. It's there at that covenant that he told them that that God actually told Abraham, he said, listen, I'm going to bless you and you're going to be a blessing beyond measure. I'm going to increase you. God began to tell Abraham all these things he was going to do for him. And so this is where we have to receive, I pray right now you receive the new revelation from heaven. The covenant agreement with Abraham is good for us. We are Gentiles, but we're engrafted into the plan. You are blessed to be a blessing, and you have entered covenant with the Lord. In this covenant, he expects you to grow in an understanding of who you are so you can continue to be a blessing to others because you see yourself that way, and so therefore you can extend the blessing that way. And so a lot of the Word of God is focused on the fact that we have to have faith to believe that what the Word says about us is true and respond as such. Every faith has an action associated with it in order to stamp the faith that we believe, okay? Faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. But when you act on the faith, you're stamping that your belief is true. And so I want to take us to some scriptures tonight that are going to position us to understand how God is establishing a covenant with us right now. He's taking the enlargement of territory to the next level in the heavenly realms. And part of understanding the treasuries of heaven and kind of pulling this all together with the miraculous life is going to help those of you who want to change your thinking and want to grab a hold of this revelation to begin to step out and walk in all that God has called you to walk and be in. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about getting in alignment with God. All right, so Deuteronomy chapter 8. Let's go there first. In Deuteronomy chapter 8, the Lord speaks and says, all the commandments which I command thee this day you shall observe to do, that you might live and multiply and go in and possess the land which the Lord swore unto your fathers. And you shall remember all the way which the Lord thy God led you these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble you and to prove you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep my commandments or not. And he humbled them, and they hungered, and he fed them with manna, which they did not know. And manna is like, what's it? You know, they didn't know what it was, so they named it what's it. Neither did thy father know, that he might make thee know that a man does not live by bread alone, by the food. You do not live by the natural food that you eat, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord do you live. In other words, his word is life-giving. Now, when you eat natural food, that nourishes your body and it may comfort your soul, but it is not life-giving like the word of God that proceedeth out of his mouth. He created the world with his word. And so we as his kids have to understand the fact that if we want to learn to walk in the miraculous, we have to respond to the word of God. Not natural elements like bread and things that you can touch. You respond to word. Word that you hear, word that you read, word that you eat. We eat the word of God. You eat it as in you take it in through all your senses, and you focus on it and you concentrate on it, and then it begins to change your soul, and it turns you into the person that God sees you to be. It is a living word. And so he begins to go on in Deuteronomy chapter 8, and he continues to say things like, listen, I was with you when you were in the desert, and I didn't let your feet swell, and I didn't let you have all of your needs were met, is what God's saying. He said, listen, every time I was there for you, no matter what happened. And he says, but there's going to come a time when I'm going to enlarge you so much that, and this is verse 12, that when you eat and are satisfied, and you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget me who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. And so he begins to say, listen, I have done all of this for you to show you what's in your heart, to show you that you have the capacity to walk away from relationship with me and worship the things that I give you in the natural. And he's like, I know my people, and I know they're like that. They're an adulterous people. And so during those 40 years, God had to change their thinking because they were slaves in Egypt for such a long time. So he took them to this desert place so he could get all the slave mentality out of them, so he could cause them to change so they would be ready to receive the enlarged territory and possession of the new land. You see, their souls had to prosper first before they would be able to possess the land that God had given them. Verse 17 says that this is one of the concerns. God said, you might say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors, as it is today. So he's saying, listen, after you're tried and you're tested, and you come out saying that you have a heart that loves me, he says, this is something that you need to be concerned about. You might find that you say, all this that God has given me, I really got it for myself. My power and the wealth of my hand have brought all of this to pass. God wants to make sure that that didn't happen. So he took them to some really rough places so that it wouldn't, because he knew the greater pain for them would be the separation from him. It would be where they walked away and forgot him and worshiped other gods, worshiped the treasures that he gave them, or the land, or whatever wealth. So he had to know that their hearts were with him. He didn't want them to say those things. And so verse 18 is the key, because it says, remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability. That word ability means substance. It means power. It means strength. It means force. God gives you all of this so that you can produce wealth, which also means substance and power. In other words, he's going to give you power in every respect so that you can bring forth the very thing that you need. Why? To establish his covenant. Why is this covenant so important? He said that you're blessed to be a blessing. He said that you're called to increase. That other nations and other people are going to look at you and say, you could only be this way because of God. And so during this time, God's trying to establish a covenant with us that he will supply all we need in our soul and our substance so that we can produce a wealth that he would bless us with, and this would say he is God. In other words, your life is a reflection of him. So he wants to bless you with things, because that means when someone says, whoa, I can't believe that you have that. You can say, have you met my God? He has given me all of this. He has given me this. Why? Why? He's establishing his covenant with me. See, he's establishing his covenant with Abraham, and I am one who is engrafted into that, so therefore I get to receive as well. See, I'm a king's kid. That's why I have this. And I'm learning to manage it well. He's teaching me every day. How? Because I'm listening to his voice. The more he gives me, the more I step out and do exactly what he says, and then he gives me more. Wow. That's like, might be a huge revelation to some people. Kind of sounds like when your dad tells you, if I give you a little bit here and you spend it right, then I'll give you more. There's more available to you. All the while, you know where it comes from. It comes from him giving you the ability to produce it. Well, when God is speaking to us now in this enlargement of territory, he's saying, listen, I need some people to catch the fact that I've entered covenant with them, and I want to bless them, and I want to bless them immensely. Now, some of you have entered into not only the general covenant, which we're all a part of, but there's specific covenant. In other words, God has specifically spoken to your heart about a vision of who he has called you to be, or what he has called you to do, or how he intends to empower you so that you can be a blessing to his world. That's entering into a private covenant with God. And that revolves around your personality, your giftings, your environment, your spheres of influence. All kinds of factors come in there. And so there's covenants that are huge covenants, but there's also covenants in your heart between you and God. Things that you and him know are for you to advance the kingdom because you've been chosen to do it, and you're the right one with a specific set of giftings. So what do we learn so far? We learn the fact that we need to obey God's commandments and listen to him if we expect to walk in the miraculous and to receive wealth. There's no other way to do it the way God wants it unless we obey his voice and we respond. He continues to tell us in Deuteronomy, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. He says, and it shall come to pass, if you will hearken, listen diligently to the voice of the Lord your God, observe and do all his commandments, which I command you this day, that the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on you and overtake you if you shall hearken to the voice of the Lord. Then he goes on to say, the Lord shall command the blessing upon thee in your storehouses and in all that you setteth your hand to, and he shall bless you in the land which the Lord your God giveth you. And each one of us have our own little land pods, okay? And then together as a kingdom, we have the larger sphere. But then verse 9 says, the Lord shall establish you as a holy people unto himself, as he has sworn unto thee, if you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God and walk in his ways. So it is important to God that we are established in the covenant. You have got to be established. And establishment means you have to be so set in understanding who you are in order to walk in all the things that God has for you. And this is where we're weak. This is where the risk is, okay? Because most of us are not firmly established. We're not sure who we are. We're not sure why we're here. We're not sure where we're going. We're not sure of what, when he gives us what we're asking for, where we're going to, what are we going to do with it?
Come on.
He needs us to be established. So one of the keys of the miraculous life is you have to gain an establishment of the fact that you are a son or a daughter of the king. Now, that's a hard one. It's a very, very hard one. Because we don't see ourselves like that. You might look around yourself. You might live in a very, very humble place. You might barely be making it every day. And to call yourself a son or a daughter of the Most High God, is hard to do. You might look at your family situation or look at anything in your current circumstances that you're not happy with. And that would be enough for the devil to say, would a son or a daughter of the king live like this?
Preach it.
So then we began to listen to the voice of the enemy a little more than we listen to God and what he says in his word. Remember, the keys to the miraculous life is you have to obey the voice of the Lord, not the other voices that you hear. Not the voice in your head, which is consistently negative, and not the voice of the enemy, which agrees with the voice in your head that's consistently negative. Those two are not to be listened to. The soul chatter has got to stop, and the negative voice has got to be turned off. This is why the word of God and obeying his voice from the word is so important, because he's saying, no, I need you to believe who you are, and then things around you are going to change.
Hallelujah. Yes.
May you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. The soul that thinks big, that magnifies the name of the Lord, that sees him seated high upon his throne and can go and sit next to him and have a conversation with him, those are the people that are ruling the earth today. They know the high places and they're not afraid of them, and they sit with the Father wherever he tells them to go, because they listen to the voice of the Lord, and they know that he loves them, and he's going to speak to them, and he's also going to bless them when they respond to his voice. He's trying to make a whole family that thinks like this. But it's slow in coming. It's slow in coming, and it shouldn't be. So right now, the prophetic word in the here and now is this. God says, I want to establish you in my covenant, but you've got to see yourself as a son or a daughter of the king if you want to have access to the treasuries in heaven, the wealth that I want to give you, and the miraculous that you've been asking for. It's not coming any other way. He says, I need you to get a new revelation of who you are. It's not that I haven't told you that in the word. It's that I'm going to illuminate the word so that you're going to receive a revelation of who you are. And you need to begin to speak this consistently. Now, let me tie that into these treasuries, because I've talked a lot about these treasuries. So let's go to in the same Deuteronomy chapter 28, where he goes to tell them, listen, I want to establish you as my holy people. Then he says in verse 11, the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, the fruit of thy cattle, the fruit of thy ground, in the land which the Lord swore unto the fathers to give. And then verse 12 says, the Lord shall open unto you his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto the land in season, and to bless all the work of thy hand, that you should lend to many nations and not borrow from any. And the Lord shall make you the head and not the tail, and you shall be above and not beneath. And if you hearken to the commandments of the Lord, which I command you this day to do and to observe, and you shall not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day to the right or to the left, or to go after other gods to serve them. He's very concerned about this going after other gods thing. Okay? Like, you don't look, you see no evil, hear no evil, that don't look at other gods. Okay? Other gods is all the things that you worship that are not God, that take you away from God continually. There are good things and there are bad things that you're worshiping. Okay? He doesn't want you to worship those things. But verse 12 says he's going to open unto you good treasure, heaven to give the rain unto the land in the season. And that is not just water. That is rain. That's rain. That's the raining down of things that you need from heaven when you know who you are.
Amen.
When you obey his commands, he will bring you what is in the treasuries of heaven. Now, I'm going to prove it again. Let's go to Matthew chapter 17. I'm going to close up with this. This is the most important scriptures of all of them. This is Peter, Simon Peter, and Jesus talking. And there's a couple of guys that approach Peter about the temple. And the temple had to have income in order to keep going. And so in this particular case, these guys come to Peter and they say, hey, what about your teacher? Does he pay the 2 drachma tax? In other words, your teacher, Jesus, is he going to pay this tax like the rest of us? So Simon Peter's a little concerned. So he comes in, he talks to Jesus, and he says, Jesus, like, they're asking me for some money for the temple. Like, are we going to pay our share? And Jesus says, listen, Simon, he says, from whom do the kings of the earth collect customs or poll tax? From their sons or from strangers? And Peter's response was, well, from strangers. And Jesus said, then the sons are exempt. I'm stopping right there. Who's a son in the house?
I am.
Who's a daughter? Son and daughter. Okay. Son, daughter. So we're exempt. But this is what Jesus says about him, Peter, and us. He says, so that we do not offend them, go to the sea and throw in a hook and take the first fish that comes up. And when you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. A shekel is the 2 drachmas that are needed. Take that and give it to them for you and for me. Now, the whole dialogue there between Jesus and Simon Peter brings a revelation to Peter. You see, Jesus knows he's the son of the inheritance, but Simon Peter doesn't yet know that. He just wants to know, are we going to pay the tax? But you know our Jesus, he never can answer straight up. So he turns it into a question and says, basically, well, Simon, who are you, a son or a stranger? He doesn't know how to answer, but he's like, well, I guess the sons don't have to pay. The stranger's got to pay. Jesus is like, listen, we are the sons and we are exempt. But in order not to offend the world, this is what we're going to do. Simon, I'm going to send you, go down to the water side, put a hook in a fish, and the first one you pull out, you're going to find the drachma. You're going to find the shekel. Where did that shekel come from? This is the miracle. Come on. Where'd that shekel come from? There's treasuries in heaven. Jesus knew there were treasuries in heaven. So he sent the one who wasn't sure who he was, told him, we're sons now. Now go and get what we need as sons. The Father will provide. And Simon, who wasn't sure totally who he was, I mean, Jesus said he was a son. Okay, I guess I'm a son. Took faith in action, obedience to what Jesus said. So it's obedience to the word. Go and get what you need and bring it back. He had to have enough faith to step out and do what the voice of the Lord said, which was to go, not questioning. Could you imagine that walk for him? What the heck? There's a fish and it's going to have some money? I mean, we don't even get to look at that dialogue if someone was in his head. Or how many times the enemy said, there's no fish with no money, you idiot. Are you kidding me? But he went for a walk. The miracle was that God gave the money to who? The stranger or the son? The son. The sons, plural. Him and Peter to pay the tax for both of them. Not just the tax for Jesus. It wasn't that Jesus was the only one that got to receive the money. It was him and Peter. From where? From a treasury that came from heaven to earth, and they went to get it from the earth, and it was miraculous to help pay the temple so that the people in the world would not be offended, and they would think that Jesus and his disciples actually agreed with blessing the temple. Now, where does this leave us? If you want to live the miraculous life, the first key is you have to know you're a son or a daughter.
Amen.
My papa's not giving his money to a stranger. My papa's not pulling a stranger to a place of excessive wealth to manage kingdom wealth. Absolutely not. He's too wise of a papa. He's going to give it to a son. He's going to give it to a daughter. See, the key is, if you want to walk in the miraculous, you better know who you are. And then you better speak like who you are. And you better take territory like who you are. And you better walk like who you are. And then the miracles are going to start to happen around you, because as you act like a son, on a daughter, you're acting like the inheritance. And God's going to meet you with the inheritance. See, the ones that wear the crown and walk it out are the ones that get to see the miracles. People say all the time, oh, wow, let's go watch that evangelist, because you know what? Like major miracles are coming from that ministry. That evangelist knows one thing. He knows who he is, or she knows who she is. And God just meets them in a moment with a gift from heaven for everyone else to see. That's it. That's it. They have no power. They can't do anything. They can hardly even talk. They just walk who God says they are, and bingo, he shows up with the drachma or the shekel or the blessing that is needed in a moment. They're no greater than you are sitting in that seat. And you can walk in the same miracles that they do every day. But you have to change your thinking. You have to be a son or a daughter of the King. So I'm going to pray for everybody right now, because it's clear that we have been given a revelation from heaven, but God's got to work this out. He's got to work it out in your head. See, I can see into your head right now, and you got like all these little things are jumping around. They're so excited about what's been said. Oh my God, am I a son or a daughter? This is amazing. Like really, like maybe I can get myself out of this situation now if I can just learn to walk like a son or a daughter. So Father, I just thank you right now. Let those brain trees begin to start firing. We are sons and daughters of the Most High God. Lord, quicken our brain, change it right now. I pray that brain chemistry is changed right now. Everywhere where there's fear, anxiety, guilt, and shame lodged in the brain trees would begin to change right now. I see joy. I see peace. I see that's really me. Does he really love me that much? Yes, he really loves you that much. Is there really treasuries of heaven that I can have? Yes, you can. Is he want to expand my soul to be like him? Yes, he does. So, Father, I thank you. Begin to start firing the love in our brains, Father. Firing a change of identity. I am a son and I am a daughter of the Most High God. The treasuries of heaven are available to me. I will walk in them as God transforms my thinking about myself. I want to hear everybody say that. I will walk in them as God transforms my thinking about myself. I am a son or daughter of the Most High God, and he wants to establish his covenant with me, and I accept the offer. In Jesus' name,